Everyone says they want to leave a legacy. They claim they want their life to matter. They say they want to develop something that outlasts them. But most individuals spend their whole life seeking success, not relevance. They sprint after milestones, not meaning. They collect achievements but never pause to examine what it all truly adds up to. And when the end comes, they look back and question if they wasted their life following the wrong thing. Legacy isn't built by chance. It's not the outcome of time or age or luck. It's intentional. It's molded by decisions, habits, and principles that few people talk about, the things that don't feature in most goal-setting books. The kind of wisdom you get from those who've lived long enough and built deep enough to know what really lasts, what really echoes, what really makes an influence beyond the noise. Legacy isn't built in a rush. It's not a race to the finish line. It's a lengthy game. It's a tiered game. It's about depth, not speed. But most individuals are going too fast to get deep. They seek what's trendy instead of developing what's permanent. They desire attention but don't invest in alignment. They desire followers but never ask who they're becoming while they lead. This is the area between achievement and legacy, between success and significance, between creating a name and making something worth remembering. And if you don't close that space on purpose, you wind up living a life that looks wonderful but leaves nothing behind. The truth is, legacy doesn't start at the end. It starts right now, in how you think, in what you choose, in what you say yes to, in what you stop allowing, in how you treat those who can't offer you anything, in how you respond to pressure, failure, success, and setbacks, in how you show up when no one's watching. And if you want to build a legacy, not one founded on ego, fear, or image, you need to recognize what genuinely counts, what truly motivates others, what truly lasts. Because most advice is loud but hollow, inspiring but pointless. It might burn you up, but it won't keep you grounded when life gets real. This is different. This is the stuff people rarely talk about, the behind-the-scenes wisdom exchanged in hushed discussions, transmitted between people who care more about impact than appearances. The kind of thought that affects the road of a life, not for a moment, but for a legacy. This isn't about how fast you create, it's about what you build that survives. Because legacy isn't the house, it's the foundation. It's what you don't see that keeps everything else up. And when you get that bit perfect, everything else starts to click. The strategy makes logical, the discipline suits, the vision sharpens. Because you're not just chasing success, you're working to be remembered. The first piece of this deeper insight is simple. Your legacy isn't built by what you begin. It's built by what you keep going. Starting is easy. Anyone may start. You can start a project, a business, a cause, a relationship. You can start writing, reading, planning, dreaming. Starting demands excitement, not endurance. But sustaining. That's where people stumble. That's where dreams fade. That's when vision is lost. Not because it wasn't real, but the truth is, the people who carried those hopes didn't know how to persevere. They never built the habit. They never found the beat. They gave up when it got dull. They disappeared when it stopped being thrilling. They started strong, but they didn't stay. And here's the hard truth. The world remembers what you stayed faithful to, not what you got enthused about. No one's creating monuments for those who barely finished. No one remembers what you almost constructed. Legacy doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about what you hauled through the storms. It cares about the effort you persevered with, the ones you refused to give up on, the message you kept speaking, even when the applause faded. There's a reason consistency feels like a struggle. It's sacrosanct. It's pricey. It demands that you show up through all the noise in your thoughts. That you lead even when you don't feel like a leader. That you commit even when your emotions alter. That you stay anchored even when results don't come soon. Consistency takes more than buzz. But it's worth more than gold. Legacy is built in the hidden spaces, in the days that you feel unseen, in the hours no one notices, in the years your employment feels unappreciated, your energy's depleted, and your future unclear. It's built when you rise again, take one more step, make one more call, say one more word, lift one more rep, not because it thrills you, but because you said you would. People chase regularity like it's a productivity trick, but it's not. It's not a time hack. It's not a system upgrade. It's a value, a choice, a decision to be faithful to something higher than how you feel in the moment, a decision to uphold your word when no one's watching, to hold your form even when you're wary. You don't establish legacy sprinting for a week. You construct it marching forward every day for years. You become the one people can count on, the one who doesn't vanish when it's tough, The one who stands their ground when quitting seems easier. The one who keeps going, not because it's simple, but because it's who they are today. And you become that person via repetition. You prove it to yourself in the silence, not through spectacular gestures, but in the little, faithful choices. You keep turning up when nothing's working. You keep developing while no one's clapping. You quit needing the rush and start leaning into the meaning. That type of commitment rewires your core. It matures your character. It sharpens your sense. It strengthens your soul. You stop depending on outside fuel. You don't need reminders of why you began because now it lives in you. It's in your breath, your words, your presence. And the deeper you go, the stronger you grow. Because consistency isn't just about doing something, it's about becoming someone. And that person, the one who finishes, they're scarce, but they're remembered. Because they stayed, they built something solid, something trustworthy, something that didn't dissolve when the weather changed. So certainly start bold. Start with fire, but more than anything, build to last. Build for the long run. Build rhythms that sustain you. Build promises you'll carry even when it's hard. Build behaviors that stand up under pressure. Build an identity that outlives the skepticism. When you keep coming up long after the limelight fades, you won't need to shout. Your life will speak. And it will say something worth listening, something people remember, something that lasts. Here's the second piece of insider truth: legacy isn't formed by adding more. It's built by protecting less. The world tells you to chase more goals, more initiatives, more revenue, more influence, more visibility, more platforms, more followers. But what it rarely teaches is the discipline of subtraction, the power of focus, the fortitude to say no. Most people don't fail from a lack of ambition. They fail because they're spread too thin. They're trying to carry everything, do everything, be everything. And in striving to do it all, they dilute their impact. They water down their efforts. They tire themselves out chasing a dozen things that don't even point in the same direction. Legacy doesn't come from being everywhere. It comes from being effective. It doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from performing a few things with deep insight, constant effort, and unwavering conviction. The sharper your focus, the larger your reach. The more you eliminate what doesn't matter, the more powerful what remains becomes. Focus is a sort of protection. When you preserve your priorities, you protect your energy. When you safeguard your time, you protect your clarity. When you safeguard your vision, you secure your future. Every distraction you say no to is a vote in favor of the legacy you've chosen. But focus isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It rarely draws applause. It involves discipline, boundaries, and saying no to things you like. To honor what you're called to accomplish. It demands uncomfortable conversations, awkward silences that follow the words, "I'm not available for that anymore." You won't build a legacy by being accommodating. You won't develop it by being continuously available. You won't develop it by following every trend, every bright choice that crops up. Legacy survives in depth, not in noise, not in exposure. You have to establish what genuinely important, not what sounds good. Not what appears impressive, but what is vital, what's worthy of your finest. What will still matter a decade from now? What builds roots, not simply reach? What provides substance to your work, not just scale to your presence? When you attain that insight, you stop chasing approval. You stop apologizing for staying in your lane. You cease negotiating with distractions. You focus, not because you lack possibilities, but because you've finally defined your criteria. And when you work from that position, things begin to align. Your calendar represents your principles. Your energy mirrors your purpose. Your decisions represent your identity. You cease needing to prove that you're doing enough. You know what you're doing. You've measured everything against your purpose. You've cut the surplus. Now, you're creating with accuracy. This is the real work, not just adding more, but trimming with wisdom, letting rid of what doesn't fit anymore, closing the chapter that's completed, walking away from what no longer serves the mission. Even if you're still good at it, even if people still expect you to continue, because developing a legacy demands you to move beyond who you were. It means losing past versions of oneself, moving on even when it means being misunderstood, simplifying, not because you're doing less, but because you're doing what matters most. And yeah, it's not easy. Saying no is more than just rejecting an opportunity. It's saying no to money, to fame, to the kind of risks that could drag you even 1 degree off track. But you do it because you're not just pursuing short-term wins. You're protecting your long-term influence. You defend your mornings, your margins, your thoughts, your values. All of it matters. All of it compounds. All of it either builds or breaks. When you learn to defend instead of simply pursue, your life starts to take shape. So here's the shift: you stop being a collector. You quit attempting to gather more for the sake of having more. You start becoming a curator, a steward, a focused, disciplined, and clear leader who creates something deep enough to hold steady when the storms come, and strong enough to carry meaning beyond your lifetime. The final piece of insider knowledge is this: your legacy is shaped less by what you achieve and more by how you treat people. Your name, your work, none of it survives beyond you unless it's tied to how people felt in your presence. What they remember isn't simply what you constructed, it's how you made them feel while making it. This is something most people miss. They think legacy is about winning, rising, accumulating, or being known. But the people who are truly remembered, the ones still spoken of long after they're gone, are those who established something deeper than adoration. They built respect, they developed connection, they built trust. People will forget your words, your milestones, and your resume, but they won't forget how you handled them in difficult circumstances. They won't forget how you treated them when no one was looking. They won't forget how you led when the spotlight wasn't on you. Because character echoes longer than charisma. That's why the foundation of legacy is relationship integrity. It's how you show up when it's inconvenient, how you apologize when you're wrong, how you listen when you don't agree, how you carry yourself when you're hurt, and how you lead when no one's clapping. You can achieve excellent results and still leave damage behind. You can win the game and lose your enthusiasm. You can develop something amazing and leave behind a path of broken people who believed you and were betrayed. No audience is worth that. No bank account is worth that. So, you determine today that how you treat people is not simply a preference, but a principle. Your connections won't be formed on convenience. You'll lead with empathy, walk with respect, and be the same person behind closed doors as you are in public. And when you fail, and you own it. You don't dodge it. You don't spin it. You face it head on, say, "That's on me," and make it right. Not to defend your reputation, but to protect your soul, since a clean heart means more than a clean appearance. This is the part most people never learn: your ability to establish great connections, to listen, to serve, to lead, and to forgive is more valuable than nearly any other skill. Your business might grow, your influence might climb, but if the people closest to you can't trust you, then the foundation is hollow. When people discuss about legacy, they don't remember the prize you got in 1998. They talk about how you made them feel. It's about how comfortable people feel around you, how seen they feel in your company, how honest you are when you could have lied, and how you stay by them when it would have been easier to walk away. This is where the main weight of your existence lies, not in how you're treated, but in how you treat others. Not in what you take, but in what you give. Not in what you say, but in what you do when the pressure is intense and the stakes are real. Make kindness a habit, not a plan. It's not a branding move or a fleeting charm you wear to win folks over. It should be a manner of life, a standard you bring into every room, not because people deserve it, but because your legacy needs it. You lead with honor, you talk with integrity, you serve without manipulation, you boost without conditions. You support individuals without continually asking what's in it for you. That method of living builds something deep, something durable, something unusual. And when you do this consistently, when the way you treat others matches your inner ideal, not their exterior behavior, you stop building for applause. You start building for alignment. You quit craving accolades and simply help others. And somehow that becomes your greatest strength. That's the kind of legacy that doesn't fade, doesn't rely on the market, and doesn't shatter when the spotlight goes. It's not based on hype, it's built on character. It's not about being remarkable, it's about being solid, dependable, and trustworthy. The fourth essential to insider knowledge is this: you do not develop a legacy by doing everything yourself. You build it by spreading your mission through others. At some point, the ceiling you keep hitting isn't a lack of talent or discipline, it's a lack of trust, a lack of team, a lack of trust. You're still holding everything in your hands instead of empowering others to carry it with you. This is the crossroads every builder eventually faces. You can keep going alone, doing everything your way, at your pace with your standards. But the cost is scale, the cost is depth, the cost is effect. Because there's a limit to what you can do on your own, and legacy doesn't survive within constraints. Most people struggle here because they conflate delegating with loss of control. They fear if someone else does it, it won't be as good. They fear if someone else touches the vision, it will be diluted. So they wind up doing everything themselves, deciding everything, carrying everything, and finally, they burn out. They stall. They suffocate their own momentum. Not because they aren't competent, but because they never learned how to release. Multiplication isn't about letting go of perfection. It's about letting go of ego. It's about transitioning from doing to developing, from control to capacity, from being the only voice to becoming the builder of voices. It's about training leaders, not just accumulating followers. You start developing systems that outlive your energy. You teach people how to bear what you carry, not perfectly but faithfully. You create culture. You invest in mentorship. You give off portions of the task, not because they don't matter, but because they matter too much to be contained to one person's timetable. This is when trust comes in. Trust isn't blind. It's built, but it must also be extended. You won't always get it right, and not everyone will be ready. Some will rise, some will surprise you, and some are simply waiting for the chance to take on responsibilities. When you empower them, they grow. And as they grow, the mission flourishes. You cease being the hero of the story and become the architect, the mentor, the multiplier. You shift your focus from how much you can do to how many you can develop. You move from how fast can I go to how far can we go together. Legacy isn't built just by accomplishing incredible feats, but by building incredible people. Those who carry your essence, who move with the same clarity, values, and conviction. These people can lead without instruction, embodying the objective even when you're not present. The more you build like Wei, the more flexibility and influence you create, and the more resilient your goal becomes. It no longer relies on one individual's energy. It's carried by a community. It thrives in the hands, voices, and leadership of people who have accepted the idea and made it their own. This doesn't imply compromising your standards. It means growing your capabilities. It involves creating space for people to grow, allowing them to fail and leading them through recovery. It's about making the tough choices. Who wins access, who earns authority, who bears the responsibility. But once you make these judgments, once you feel comfortable with constructing beyond yourself, you'll see what's possible. You'll sense the shift from pressure to possibility. You'll stop bottlenecking growth. You'll stop proving your value by doing everything and instead prove your leadership by empowering others. You'll approach meetings differently. You'll ask better questions. You'll cede control, but with strategy, not recklessness. You'll develop the ability to watch someone else achieve and feel pride, not insecurity, because you understand that their success is part of your legacy, their growth is your effect, and their victories reflect your multiplication. That rippling effect, your impact, is how legacy scales. Not because you were the focus, but because you were the source. Not because everyone depended on you, but because you built something that didn't need you to survive. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know it will persist. The sixth piece of insider wisdom is this: your legacy won't be formed by who you impress, but by who you impact. In a world bent on attention, it's easy to confuse visibility with actual value. Just because people see you doesn't imply they're transformed by you. Just because they know your name doesn't mean your existence has meaning to them. Visibility is loud. The temptation is to chase applause, to be liked, seen, applauded. It feels wonderful, validating even, making you feel like you're doing something that matters. But interest fades rapidly, and the mob forgets fast. If your identity is rooted in being seen, you'll live in a loop of constant performance. And performing without purpose will drain you. Legacy isn't produced by performance. It's built through presence, depth, and keeping close to the genuine work, not just the accolades. The folks who actually develop something lasting aren't focused on seeming powerful. They're focused on becoming useful. They aren't judging influence by the amount of followers they have, but by how many lives they've impacted. And most of that impact is invisible. It's not captured on camera or applauded on stage. It's found in one-on-one talks, quiet decisions, moments of service, and persistent presence. Being where it matters, even when it's inconvenient, providing what costs you, rather than just what's easy, will ensure that you develop something worthwhile. You can't establish a lasting legacy if your main purpose is simply to impress others, because impressing people is all about image, and an image is vulnerable. It fractures under strain, shifts with trends, and compels you to continuously chase the next big thing. But impact, on the other hand, is steady, it's gradual, profound, and often doesn't require notice. If you're actually serious about building something that lasts beyond your time, You must move from self-promotion to service, from being entertaining to being useful, and from being praised to being remembered for what you gave. Your time, your wisdom, your presence, and your love. Those are the things people remember. Those are the things that stay with them. Impact is made when you value being authentic over being liked. When you speak the truth, even when it's controversial. When you show up with regularity rather than dazzling moments. When your ideals are non-negotiable regardless of who's in the room. When your yes is actually yes, and your no is truly no. When people can trust your name, even if you're not present to defend it. And here's the paradox: the more you focus on impact, the more strong your presence becomes. The less you chase attention, the more your name gets referenced in rooms you've never entered, because the world recognizes something real, something grounded, something unusual. But it can't be your motivation. You have to love the job more than the compliments. You have to care more about the people than the applause. You must be so aligned with your mission that even when no one sees it, affirms it, or shares it, you keep going. Because you know what it's doing, you know who it's helping, and you know that even if it doesn't go viral, it's still producing value. This kind of influence outlasts your platform. It doesn't need algorithms or trends or the crowd's approval, because it's anchored in real people, genuine hearts, and real change. So be intentional with your presence. Don't measure your worth by numbers. Measure it by moments, by how you show up, what you're willing to offer, how you speak, what you carry, and what you're willing to do when it's hard and no one is cheering you on. Legacy is built when you stop needing everyone to know who you are and start focusing on who you're becoming. It's built when you stop pursuing a platform and start becoming one yourself. When your life speaks louder than your profile. When your ideals show up louder than your voice. When others feel safer, stronger, and more seen just because you were there. Here's the sixth piece of insider knowledge. You won't develop a legacy until you know how to withstand boredom. Not burnout, but boredom. Because establishing something significant, something real, something that lasts, isn't just about adrenaline and praise. It's about repetition, rhythm, and performing the same thing over and over again when no one notices or cares. Most individuals aren't derailed by failure, they're derailed by monotony, the grind, the sluggish days. They think that if it's not interesting, it must not be functioning. If it's not new, it must not be growing. If it's not exhilarating, it must not matter. So they change course, chase novelty, and abandon what was previously working. They were tired of the continual repetition. Yet legacy is not born out of novelty, it is the consequence of dedication. It's forged when you commit to the job, not because it's enjoyable, but because it's right, because it matters, because you promised you would, and because you're constructing something so vital that you're willing to accept the dullness that comes with the process. The most influential people you know aren't just brilliant. They're consistent. They understand how to flourish in the process. They know how to remain true to what works, even when the effects are invisible. They know how to show up for the foundation, even when they'd rather focus on the exterior. They understand that brilliance isn't discovered in the highlight reel, but in the unnoticed hours no one will ever celebrate. This kind of discipline isn't glamorous, but it is transforming. Every time you repeat an action with intent, you deepen it. Every time you turn up when it's monotonous, you strengthen your character. Every time you stay in rhythm, even when progress isn't obvious, you ground your roots deeper, and those roots, they are what make you unbreakable, resilient, and able to withstand when a storm hits. You didn't create your identity on outcomes, you built it on the process. When the process becomes part of who you are, no one can take it from you. The world will try to lure you to stop, to alter focus, to follow the next shiny thing, but mastery rests in repetition, greatness in mastery, and legacy in brilliance that survives trends. So if you want to create something that echoes beyond you, you must learn to embrace the mundane, the process, the silence. Stop requiring every step to be interesting. Stop waiting for passion to fuel your endeavor. Cultivate maturity that says, even if no one notices, even if I don't feel it today, I will do the work. Even if it seems small right now, I know it's building something substantial. The reality is, boredom is a privilege. It signifies you found something sturdy enough to support you. It indicates you're no longer pursuing chaos. It implies you've developed something genuine, and now it's your obligation to nurture it, to support it, and to stay with it as it grows. That's why you need rhythm more than hype, systems more than drive, and values more than inspiration. Hype dissipates, emotions fade, and momentum slows, but habits stay. The habit of sticking, of enduring the commonplace, of trusting the structure, of following the plan. That's what differentiates those who visit greatness from those who live there. So, create the foundation, trust the process, preserve the strategy, and when it becomes monotonous, grin. You're doing it right. Boredom is not an indication that you're off course. It's a sign that you're being faithful. It's a sign that you're doing what most people won't do. And when you endure through the repetition long enough, something shifts. The tasks that once felt tedious become strong. The behaviors that once seemed frivolous become sacrosanct. The rhythm that formerly felt routine starts to align. Legacy doesn't arrive all at once. It's earned, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 action at a time. It's constructed by people who are modest enough to do the work and wise enough to keep going, even when no one is watching. The sixth piece of knowledge is this: if you want to leave a legacy, you have to quit living as though time is endless. You must know that your time here is finite, and while this notion may sound depressing, it's actually clarifying. It helps you refine your priorities, quiets the distractions, and reminds you that you don't have time to squander living for others or carrying their problems. Most people live as if they have all the time in the world, as if they can delay becoming serious, as if they'll build when things settle down, love passionately when it's convenient, or take action, just not yet. They wait, they postpone, they find methods to avoid doing what they're genuinely supposed to do. But then one day, time runs out. Those who leave legacies don't live forever, but they live with intention. They behave like their time matters. They recognize that today counts, that their presence has significance, and that each hour is important. They show up, speak truth, love fiercely, work hard, forgive swiftly, and build steadily. They don't wait for the proper moment or feel ready. They make it. They wake up with a sense of urgency, not dread, but a quiet resolve that screams, "This matters. This moment matters, and I won't get it back." Their lives are propelled by purpose. They say the things they need to say, write the books, launch their goals, and take action. Not someday, but today. They recognize that someday is a myth. There's just now. This awareness doesn't make them anxious. It sets them free. They're released from the urge to be perfect, from the anxiety of others' judgment, from hoarding their abilities. They contribute, they serve, they act, because they know their time is too precious to waste on anything less. And this urgency propels people with courage, the courage to tell their truth, to forgive, to start what's been waiting inside them, to stop holding back, to stop seeking approval. They know they can't make a legacy by playing it safe. Legacies are established by living as if today matters, by showing up for what you believe, by investing in the people who matter, by refusing to leave potential untapped or words unheard. Living this manner doesn't mean hurrying or acting irresponsibly. It implies living with awareness, awake, present, clear. They know what matters and refuse to waste time on what doesn't. They proceed with confidence because every decision builds their story, every barrier secures their route, and every stride makes a mark. When you live with this mindset, something shifts. Regret disappears, and you stop worrying if you wasted your opportunity. You stop feeling like you're slipping behind, since you're no longer waiting. You're walking. You're grounded in today. You recognize that the best way to prepare for the future is by being faithful in the now. The most significant approach to affect tomorrow is to make today count. Your legacy begins now, in the way you love, the way you lead, and the way you live. You decide. You decide that time is precious, and that's exactly what makes it sacred. Today is the day you decide to begin. You know that the life you want to create won't happen by coincidence. You don't have time for delays. You build not just with strength, but with urgency. Not simply with focus, but with emotion. Not simply with discipline, but with soul. Because legacy isn't simply what you leave behind. It's how you show up while you're still here. You've heard the 7 pieces of insider knowledge, not cliches, but the quiet realities. The ideals that those who construct legacies live by, whether they speak about them or not. The things that don't trend but persist. The things that don't shine on the surface but have weight beneath. This isn't about adding more noise to your life. It's about changing how you view your life. Legacy isn't a list of achievements. It's a way of being, a way of thinking, a way of turning up. You construct it in the way you carry yourself when no one's watching. You build it in the rhythm you create, not just the results you chase, in how you finish what you start, in how you protect your time, in how you scale beyond yourself, in how you bear the mundane, in how you live as if the clock is ticking, because it is. This isn't about being remembered for being important. It's about being remembered for having an impact. It's not about how loud you were, but how aligned you were. Not how noticeable you were, but how valuable you were. Not how stunning you appeared, but how solid you stood. You've been given this life, this time, this platform, whether huge or tiny, and now you know what it takes to establish something lasting. Not simply something that works for you now, but something that works when you're gone. Something that resonates long after your name is no longer uttered. That's what legacy is, not a statue, but a standard, not a monument, but a model. So now the choice is yours. Will you live for the acclaim, or will you live for the echo? Will you chase the dopamine boost of brief attention, or the deep tranquility of long-term alignment? Will you chase what's urgent, or develop what's essential? Will you remain waiting for someday, or act like today is your only chance? You don't need to alter everything immediately. You just need to decide. Decide to start showing up differently. Decide to construct the rhythms that will survive the buzz. Decide to preserve what counts. To talk with purpose. To serve without needing recognition. To move without using a map. And when you do that, when you begin showing up, not for a moment, but for a mission, you won't have to force effect. You will become effect. You won't have to demand legacy. You will become legacy, one decision, one day, one habit at a time.